Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is Wednesday, November 20th, which means that last night was another day of great NBA Cup action. Now, week in to the NBA Cup, 3 days in, and so many great storylines heading into last night's games. We had 6 matchups last night. We're going to talk about all of them, as we always do here throughout the week. I'm Miles, going solo once again. Before we get going, always got to remind you guys to take a look in the description down below. There will be timestamps so you can skip ahead to your favorite game, your favorite team, whichever one you want to hear me talk about or hear a recap of if you missed it last night. But let's get right into it with these games. And first off, got to start with the big headline matchup, maybe of the season so far. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the 15-0 Cleveland Cavaliers, visiting the defending champion Boston Celtics. And the streak did come to an end last night as the Celtics defeated the Cavs 120-117, thanks to just a barrage of threes thrown in by the Celtics in this game. Definitely a lot of things to unpack from this game. In the first quarter, pretty ugly first quarter, but it was pretty close throughout. The Cavs really got off to a slow start offensively. They weren't making their shots that they normally hit, at least so far this season, especially Darius Garland, who had a horrible shooting night, going 3 for 21 from the field. But in the second quarter, the Cavs were still hanging around there despite them, missing some shots. But the Celtics really blew the game open in the final 4-5 minutes of the second quarter. It was only a 5-point lead for the Celtics with 4.5 minutes remaining in the first half. Then they closed on a 19-7 run. Is that right? 19-7 run. Yeah. 19-7 run to close the half, which gave them a 17-point advantage at halftime. And then the third quarter, they came out again, nailing a bunch of threes. It was getting ridiculous, man. They were just doing their thing. They had a 21-point lead. That was their biggest lead of the game. That came with like 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. But then the Cleveland Cavaliers started to make a run. Evan Mobley took over in the third quarter. He did a really great job of running the floor quickly off of stops so he could get mismatches down low on the block and in the paint. And he got a lot of good hook shots, dunks, layups, because of running the floor and sealing himself in the paint. Then in the fourth quarter, so Cleveland cuts this 21-point lead in the third all the way down to 2. Then Jason Tatum makes a step-back 3 at the buzzer in the third quarter. George Niang, trying to defend Jason Tatum, tried to draw an offensive foul. It's just never a good look. That's like the most embarrassing thing that can happen to you when you're trying to draw a flop. And when you're trying to draw an offensive foul and it just doesn't work and it just ends up looking like a flop. But anyways, the Cavs they just hung in there with the Celtics this whole game. Their poise was tremendous throughout this one. But in the end, the Celtics, they just made plays down the stretch. Donovan Mitchell did his best, tried to take over. He scored 13 points in the final 3 minutes and 40 seconds in this one, or 11 points, excuse me. But it was not enough to defeat the Celtics. 120-117. Again, Cleveland's first loss of the season. Lots of things to unpack here in this one. Let's start with the Boston Celtics side of things, because so far this season, I'm now 12-3 on the season, I want to say, or something like. I believe they're now 12-3 on the season with this victory. Yes. And this is kind of something that you see from a defending champion sometimes. There's a little bit of that championship hangover, and it hasn't really been a hangover. The Celtics have still been an amazing team this season, but they've had some of those performances where you can tell it's like, all right, it's just another regular season game. We want to try to just make it forward past this game and just, the playoffs are where it really, really matters for the Boston Celtics. They've been through all these regular season games. It really doesn't matter what happens in the regular season. Once they get in the playoffs, they know what they've got to do to, win games as the defending champion. Makes a lot of sense. But you could tell that in this game, they were excited for this one and wanted to prove a point here. Maybe not to the league, but maybe back to themselves that, like, man, we really are this type of team when we lock in defensively. Because that was a big reason why Cleveland wasn't able to get many things going offensively in that first half. not only were the Celtics knocking down like literally every single three, like it was unbelievable, but not only were they just raining it in from the outside, they were doing a great job defensively of, getting the Cavs uncomfortable and out of their normal rhythm. This season so far, the Cavs offense has been so fast. The ball's been moving. Everyone's been getting involved. The shot distribution has been off the charts. In this first half specifically, and even in the fourth quarter, we'll get to the fourth quarter later on, but it felt like the Cavs were kind of reverting back to their old ways a bit last season. And that's kind of why I'm honestly kind of glad that the Cavs got this type of game and got their first loss kind of like this, because we get to see in a playoff scenario, or not playoff scenario, but playoff like atmosphere, like for a game in November, this is as close as it gets to up to the playoffs. This type of matchup here. But you get to see what Cleveland has to work on, because so far, 15 games in, they hadn't lost. There have been some small marginal things, but nothing huge nothing huge that they really need to work on. This game, they reverted back to their old ways because the Celtics forced them into that and forced them to play a slower pace game with a lot of ISOs. And the thing is, when you're playing against the Boston Celtics in isolation, that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, unless you're Donovan Mitchell, because Donovan Mitchell just knows how to, attack those guys. He played a sensational second half. His shot wasn't going in the first half. But anyone else, there's no one, especially in that starting lineup, that you can go and hunt on a mismatch. Because that's a lot of what the playoffs are and how these great teams advance is, offensively, can you get the right matchup and can you exploit it? And in that starting unit, Cleveland was not able to do that with the Celtics starting unit. They were fantastic. It was when the bench came in for Boston when Cleveland was starting to, try to make a run there, especially in that third quarter. When Donovan Mitchell mainly Donovan Mitchell would try to get Peyton Pritchard on him, or get Kata, the big fella, get him on a mismatch. And those guys did a decent job, but still, the Cavs guys are going to have advantages. But in that starting five, there's really no one you can attack, especially when Al Horford is just playing like this. Like, my goodness, he had 20 points in this game, 7 rebounds, 4 or 5 from 3. He specifically just was ridiculous from downtown. Every shot he threw up was going in, it felt like. Had 3 blocks. All of them, I think, might have been on Darius Garland in isolation. Garland just has not had success in his career with the Al Horford matchup in isolation. He's a guy that just gives Garland a lot of problems. No, for Boston, Jason Tatum was spectacular. He finished the game 33 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists, making some big shots down the stretch. The threes, the drives to the basket, had a dunk in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown didn't have the best shooting game. I didn't think he had the best game, but in the fourth quarter, made some nice drives to the basket, which really clinched the win there for Boston against the Cavaliers. On Cleveland's side of things, mention kind of the offensive struggles that they had in the first half and really in the fourth quarter. It was really difficult and kind of frustrating as a Cavs fan myself, because, Darius Garland has had an awesome start to the season. He's been incredible. He's just been fantastic. He's been so efficient. To start this game, he missed some of his normal, bread and butter shots. He missed a floater off the glass. He missed a couple of those, missed a couple of easy pull-up shots, and that just threw off his game. The shots just weren't going down. And then later in the second half, even like the rhythm, he got a couple rhythm threes, point attempts off of offensive rebounds, which normally go down for him, which didn't in this game. And so that's something that's honestly really encouraging. I mean, the fact that Cleveland was in this game against the Boston Celtics to the final minutes, when Cleveland's also injured. Their top 4 small forwards are all out, and they didn't play in this game. They were all injured. Max Strus has already been injured. But Isaac Okoro, Karis LeVert, and Dean Wade, who are also your top 3 perimeter defenders, are also out of this game. So that was something I was really worried about coming into this game. Those guys, if they were in the lineup, would have certainly helped, especially Karis LeVert with the ball handling. to try to take some of the pressure off of Donovan Mitchell. But off the bench, got to give, once again, man, this Cavalier bench just comes in and is able to just play well. All three guys that played off the bench scored in double figures. That's another one. Kenny Atkinson shortened his rotation for this important game. You had 10 points for Ty Jerome and 5 assists. He was great attacking the basket. George Niang, I thought, had a great impact off the bench. Actually closed the game. That was an interesting thing that Cleveland did. They closed with George Niang out there with Evan Mobley. Jared Allen did not close the game. They decided to go with Mobley at the 5. Could give my thoughts on that in a little bit. But, man, Craig Porter Jr., big fan of Craig Porter Jr.'s game. Hasn't gotten a whole lot of opportunities to really show what he can do this season. Got a lot of them last year. But this game, he provided an offensive boost in that first quarter when nothing was going for Cleveland. 15 points, 3 for 3 from downtown. And that's like the big thing with Porter. If he can hit threes, he is going to hang around in this league for a while because he's a smart player, plays at his own pace, and had some nice finishes at the basket as well, some nice passes. Final two things I'll say on this game for the Cavaliers side of things. In the fourth quarter, I just wish that the shot distribution was better. Evan Mobley, after having a 14-point third quarter, which really started to lead the comeback for the Cavaliers and got them back in the game, he didn't take a single shot in the fourth quarter, and I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. Him not taking a single shot. Donovan Mitchell had 18 in the fourth quarter, but he was obviously going crazy. He was the only one really creating crazy good looks. But, I just wish that the shot distribution was a little bit better because in the third quarter, Mobley took 7 shots in the third quarter, 13 for the game. So the rest of the game, besides the third quarter, he had 6 shots. Mitchell 29, Garland 21 when he was missing a whole lot of them. And I like that Garland was still being aggressive. Couple plays where I wish he kind of held on to it in transition. But overall for Cleveland, impressed, with their performance in this game, fighting back after being down by 21 and easily could have thrown in the towel in this one. And for Boston, huge win for them. I mean, if you're talking NBA Cup implications and the Eastern Conference, I mean, these two teams are obviously right at the top of things. And when we get down to it, the tiebreakers are going to be so important. Celtics get the first matchup in this one. They were just incredibly hot from 3-point range. And I do have to say, during the first half, I was like, man, it feels like they can't miss out here. And it was because it was quite literally the best 3-point shooting performance percentage-wise in a half for the Celtics in the last 25 years of play-by-play data. So this is most likely the greatest 3-point shooting half percentage-wise in Celtic history, which is incredible against this Cavs defense. And they were playing decent defense, especially when we got down to it in the second half. The first half, I think they had some problems kind of over-helping a little bit. They would play great defense for like 15 to 18 seconds on the shot clock. Then they would over-help when you get to like 5 on the shot clock, and it would leave Pritchard and Horford and even Holiday open for open corner 3. So that's just something that they adjusted to well in the second half. Once again, for this Cavs team, it's about how do we play a full 48 minutes of basketball. But very, very pleased with the results of this game, considering the injuries for the Cavs. Darius Garland not shooting well. And we did get a great game, and the Celtics did need this one. The Celtics did need this one if they wanted to, stay in the running for the NBA Cup, especially in that group. Great game there. Let me know your thoughts on this Cavs-Celtics game in the comments down below. Next game, the Brooklyn Nets defeated the Charlotte Hornets 116-115 in a kind of wild game here in Brooklyn. Charlotte got off to a very hot start from the field, had a 17-point lead at one point in the first half. Then the Nets came back, started to play, fast, or started to slow the pace down, That was the thing with the Hornets. They, in the first half, that's how they got off to their big lead. They were playing fast. Guys were knocking down shots. Tajon Salon, the rookie, had some nice shots in the first quarter from what I saw in this game. No, the rest of the game, the Nets really slowed things down, were patient with the basketball, and got 3 season-high performances in this game, if I'm not mistaken. Cameron Johnson had 34 points, hit 6 threes. Ben Simmons had his first double-digit game of the season at 10 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. And I guess Jalen Wilson, the other guy who had a season high in points, he had 17 points, hit 5 of 8 from 3. But crazy enough in this game, couple funny storylines that don't even seem to make sense with this matchup. LaMelo Ball in this game got benched in the final minutes of a close game by head coach Charles Lee. He felt that he wasn't really providing, enough on both ends of the floor for him to be out there. So they went with Trey Mann instead to go along with Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, and Josh Green out there as well, and Cody Martin to close the game. It's interesting there. LaMelo Ball has been playing great basketball, but guess they're just Charles Lee just trying to instill the culture there that it doesn't matter, what the name on the back of the jersey is, how well you've been playing before. If we're trying to win this individual game, we're going to have the 5 guys out there, on the floor that are going to get us that result, give us the best chance to get a victory. I know Hornets fans are kind of upset because Brandon Miller in some games hasn't been playing that great. He hasn't taken Brandon Miller out at all. I can't really speak on more to that because I haven't watched a lot of Charlotte Hornets basketball over the last couple weeks. I was at the beginning of the season. But that was just one of the funny storylines. That was the funny storyline for the Hornets. Crazy storyline for the Nets was that the closer of this game, with all those season high performances, Cam Johnson going crazy, Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, Nick Claxton did not play in this game. He's still out. Dorian Finney-Smith with 15 points. Trendon Watford in this game scored 7. He scored the final 7 points, I believe, for the Nets, the 7 most important points for Brooklyn to come up with the victory. He hadn't made a basket in the game. He had just had 3 free throws, but when it came down to it, with a minute 10 remaining, they went to him in the post. They were relentless with trying to get him the basketball in the post. And he drove inside, got a crazy and one finish on Cody Martin. Then, next possession down, the Nets are up by 3 with like 45 seconds to go. They need a crucial bucket here, and they go to Trendon Watford. Crazy stuff. So Trendon Watford, the closer of the game, and able to get the victory for the Brooklyn Nets, holding on by 1 point. Brandon Miller missed a 3-pointer at the other end to try that would have tied the game. The Nets played great defense. It wasn't that great of a look. And the Nets win this game by 1. Another close win for the Brooklyn Nets. Next one, a much-needed victory for the Denver Nuggets as they defeated the Memphis Grizzlies 122-110. And my, oh my, this was an ugly one. This was a bit of an ugly one. Nikola Jokic still out in this game. Obviously, Aaron Gordon still out with his injury. So we got some good performances finally from Jamal Murray having a high-scoring game. He had 27 points, hit 5 threes in this one. And Michael Porter lost his, long shot today. Didn't make a 3, but finished with 24 points still, 11 rebounds, 5 of them on the offensive glass. Just a big-time victory for the Denver Nuggets. It got a little scary at times. Santi Aldama for the Grizzlies had a career-high 28 points and 11 rebounds. And I'm sure was scaring some Nuggets fans out there as the Grizzlies were trying to make one last push, to defeat the Nuggets. But the Nuggets, wire-to-wire win, led by as many as 25 points. Grizzlies were trying to make that push. They had it down to 5 with a few minutes to go, but actually a late dagger 3 by Dario Saric was able to clinch the victory. Got to give shout-out to Russell Westbrook off the bench, recorded his 200th career triple-double. And a tremendous accomplishment for Russell Westbrook. Going to be in the history books, obviously one of the greatest triple-double, triple-double masters of all time. Becomes the first player ever to hit 200 triple-doubles. So incredible. It's incredible. 200 triple-doubles in a career doesn't even seem real at this point. I'm sure, some current players that have gotten to triple-doubles earlier in their career, we'll pass them up later on, but just still a tremendous accomplishment, for Russell Westbrook. He was huge in this game, played 32 big minutes off the bench, had 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 14 assists. Again, the triple-double off the bench. So good victory there for the Denver Nuggets against the Memphis Grizzlies, who were still without Ja Morant. Desmond Bane had kind of an oddball game, was 1 for 10 from the field, and his only basket was a layup in the final few minutes of the game. Just a rough game shooting wise for the Grizzlies. The Nuggets did a much better job defensively and kind of mucking the game up a little bit. And, just a big time victory for them. Next up, staying in the Western Conference, the Dallas Mavericks blew out the New Orleans Pelicans 132-91. Not a whole lot to say about this one. Just good on the Mavericks getting their third straight victory after losing a lot of close games over the last couple of weeks. Good to just have a nice, easy, comfortable victory, against the injury-riddled New Orleans Pelicans there. Luka Doncic led the way with an efficient 26 points. Got that efficiency. Klay Thompson hit 5 threes, had 19 points. Kyrie Irving was efficient in his minutes. Solid victory for the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, could be huge for them, in a NBA Cup group play, because the point differential obviously matters so much. Them getting a 41-point victory after the 3-point loss to Golden State last week obviously could matter a whole lot when we get to the tie-breaking situations in that Western Conference. Next game, the San Antonio Spurs. This is a little bit of a shocker here. The Spurs, without Victor Wembanyama, defeated the OKC Thunder 110-104. In this one, the Thunder, they just wasn't really going their way. It was the third quarter that really did them in this game. Got outscored by 13 points in that period, 33-20. Gave up a lot of points, to the Spurs. Heading into the fourth quarter, they had 93 points, which is just not what we're used to seeing from this Thunder team. And I thought even without Victor Wembanyama, it'd be a little easier for them because, the Thunder obviously playing without a center right now because of all the injuries they have. And of course, 7'4" Wemby or whatever, the alien. But he didn't play in this game, but the Spurs were still able to get it done, man. Still able to get it done. And the Spurs, they really hung their hat on the defensive end in this game. They held the Thunder to just 41% shooting, 16 for 53 from downtown, 30%. Thunder getting up a lot more threes than they normally would, and just not getting down as many shots. Spurs also did a great job. They knocked down 19 threes, also had 7 more free throw attempts. Just did a good job. The Thunder tried to make one last push in the fourth quarter after trailing by 10. They got it to 4 or 6 points, I believe, in the final moments of this game. But in the end, it was a couple of veterans on this Spurs team making some dagger threes. First, it was Chris Paul making a ridiculous 3 over Alex Caruso after potentially dislocating his thumb in the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter. He was able to knock down a ridiculous 3 at the shot clock buzzer when the Thunder were getting the momentum. Chris Paul just got it right back. And then next couple plays down, Zach Collins hits a 3 from right around that same spot, the 2 vets there for the Spurs. And even Harrison Barnes had 20 points and 8 rebounds in this game to lead the way for the Spurs there. Off the bench, Keldon Johnson was hot in the first half, kind of cold in the second half. Definitely a story of 2 halves for this one. Keldon Johnson had 17 in the first half, 6 for 7 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3. Then in the second half, he only made 1 shot of his 8 attempts. So they'll have 2 halves for him. Final thing from this game, Stephon Castle, the rookie, didn't shoot the ball the best in this game, had a bunch of turnovers, but like a lot of rookie point guards, through those mistakes and the rough efficiency games that you can get sometimes, always shows flashes, man. In the final minute, he had a clutch block on Shea. It was beautiful. I'm excited to see what type of player he becomes later on in this league for the Spurs going forward. And just a good, solid victory for them, beating down the Thunder. Definitely an upset and something that I was not expecting, giving the Thunder just their 4th loss of the season. They've now lost back-to-back games. Final game of the night, the Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Utah Jazz 124-118. And the story of this game was the third quarter and the rookie, Dalton Knecht, knocking down 6 threes, a lot of them coming in the final 3 to 4 minutes of the quarter. He had 21 in the third, 6 threes, as I mentioned already. And he finished the game with 37 points, 9 for 12 from 3. And you could just see on the bench, he was getting all these threes off when LeBron and Anthony Davis were on the bench. And every time he would knock down a three, especially in that third quarter, you would look over to the bench and see them both just going crazy because they finally have a guy like this that can just shoot, the threat off the ball. He has really become a nice shooter for them so far in his rookie season. Had a couple hot games, and this was definitely one of them, man. Also in this game, LeBron and Anthony Davis did their thing. Anthony Davis had 26, 14, and 6 assists. LeBron, 26 points and 12 assists. Austin Reeves pitched in 17 points. D'Angelo Russell, 6 assists. Wonder how many of those went to Dalton Knecht. Most of them did in that third quarter, I would assume. But the Lakers, solid victory for them. Utah Jazz, 25 points for Lauri Markkanen. He's had a pretty quiet start to the season. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup with injury, but had 25 points in this game. Keontae George continues to improve, man. I'll tell you what, Keontae George, he wasn't a point guard coming into the NBA, being drafted into it last season, this being his second year. But they're starting to mold him into that point guard, man. If he could just get his efficiency and become more consistent, not turn the ball over as much, Jazz are going to be looking nice, man, in future years, because he's definitely a nice player for sure. Him and Lauri Markkanen there as well. And I want to give flowers to another one of their rookies, Kyle Filipowski, who's been starting recently. I haven't gotten to watch him a whole lot this season, but in this game particularly, I was really impressed with how he was holding his own on the defensive end. His perimeter defense is pretty solid. I mean, he's a pretty big guy. I mean, he's a legit, I would assume, 6'10", 6'11" guy that with size and agility and athleticism and length to, try to stop players on the defensive end. He had a couple back-to-back defensive possessions against Austin Reeves, which forced up a turnover and an air ball shot. So he did a solid job defensively. Excited to see what he can be for them. Obviously, a rebuilding season for the Utah Jazz, but Lakers getting another home victory. Still undefeated at home now on the season. Now 7-0 at home. They are now 10-4 on the season. This their 6th win in a row. Lakers on a hot streak right now, so shout out to the Lakers. Now let's get into the MVP of the night. Those were all 6 games from last night. MVP of the night is going to go to Jason Tatum in that Celtics-Cavs game. Really was the main difference, especially in that first half. Just getting everyone involved, knocking down 3 after 3, tough drives to the basket, and able to hold off the Cavs every single time they tried to make a run in this one. They always had an answer, and it seemed to be from Jason Tatum. So great job for Jason Tatum. Again, a big win for the Boston Celtics. Now, tonight's schedule, before we get out of here, we've got 8 games going on tonight. Obviously, back to just, typical regular season basketball. First, the League Pass schedule, 6 games going on here. One to watch for, I would say, probably a couple ones I'd watch out for. The Pacers and the Rockets. The Rockets, such a good defensive team, and the Pacers struggling to really get a rhythm going offensively, so the Rockets could have a nice advantage in that one. Sixers and the Grizzlies. Sixers obviously desperate for any win they can get, and they need to try to start piling some up now. That Memphis Grizzlies game, especially if Ja Morant is still out, they definitely need to go for that victory. No question about it. The losses have been piling up on them so far early into the season. And then the national games tonight on ESPN. First at 7:30, the Chicago Bulls visiting the Milwaukee Bucks, two teams in the Central Division that are actually, crazy enough, right next to each other in the conference right now. The 6-9 Bulls, the 5-9 Bucks, right there in the standings with each other. So both teams looking for big victories. Obviously, the Bucks need this one badly. They've been playing better as of late, but going up against this high-paced Bulls team that has already beaten them. And then the nightcap, the New York Knicks visiting the Phoenix Suns. That at 10 p.m. on ESPN. Still no Kevin Durant. I doubt Bradley Beal's going to be good to go for this one, so it'll be the Devin Booker show trying to get some rhythm going against this Knicks team who still trying to figure it out on the defensive end, but coming off of a couple nice victories thanks to their offensive scoring. That is it for this Run in the Paint recap. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Leave a comment with your thoughts on all these games from last night. Always love to hear your thoughts on all these games. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.